What is going on, guys? Lord Valor here, and welcome back to another video. Joya is again snickering, but I have realized, listen, I have realized that I really need to change my intro. I should be calling myself Jonah, not Lord Valor, because I haven't used the tag Lord Valor to refer to myself on this channel, only in my intro. And nobody calls me that, everyone just calls me Jonah. So, I need to work on that.
It's just like the
I call you
Star-Lord
Jones
thing.
sometimes.
You do call me Jones. What's going on, guys? Jones here.
What's up? It's your boy Joan.
Bro.
Introducing our guest. Today we have Joya back on the podcast from last episode.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it's been 2 weeks.
And
I
mine
didn't
is-
I'm
episode
sorry
last
it's
week.
been 2 weeks.
That's my fault. And we also have Kaylee.
No, it's Phil.
Phil. We have Phil on the podcast, also known as
Yeah.
Kaylee. Kaylee, how you doing?
Bruh, call me by my real name. I'm not
Phil?
good. Yeah, now I'm good.
Okay, so we have Phil on the podcast. Phil, how
you.
you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, that's excellent. So Phil is new. You don't know Phil, but you know Joya.
Woo!
Joya's been on, this is her third time now.
Yeah.
And she's obviously pumped about it. But if you can tell from the title of this podcast, we are going to be discussing Dear Evan Hansen, the movie. But before we get to that, let's get into some nerdy news. So I'm just going to be...
nerdy news.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to go through some of the movies that I thought were worthy of note that were coming out in 2021, actually. So from now until the end of the year. So Venom, there will be Carnage, October 1st. That will be... Anybody planning on seeing that?
Me.
I've
Kate-
never heard of it
Phil.
before.
Bruh.
Phil is planning on seeing it, obviously. No Time to Die. This is not something I'll be checking out in theaters, but I will
I've
definitely
never-
check it out eventually.
Never seen a 007 movie ever in my life.
I've seen a couple. They're not anything, in my opinion, to write home about, but
Just action.
it's just a lot of action, and they do it well, obviously. Dune. There's a lot of hype around it. Isn't there a book?
There is a book about it.
Have you read the book?
I have not, but I know people that have, and they're excited for it.
Okay, so that would be something I'd probably want to read the book first, but debatable. Scrolling through like a list here, The Eternals. Kaylee, is this something you will check out?
I'm gonna see it because it's Marvel, so I will see it, but I don't know what to think about it yet.
I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard people say that it's going to be absolute garbage, and then other people that are very excited simply because they love The Eternals.
My dad Phil is very, very excited for it.
That's where you got Phil from. Oh,
that.
okay. Wow.
Your own daddy.
Real-
What do you mean where you got Phil from? I am Phil.
Okay, Phil Jr.
Phil.
So we have Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I'm simply excited for.
I have to see the first Ghostbusters first before I see that one.
The classic. Yeah,
We
there's a
saw
Ghostbusters 2 as well, I
We
believe.
saw a trailer for Ghostbusters Afterlife when we watched Dear Evan Hansen yesterday, and the trailer was good, but that's because it's a trailer.
Yeah. No, I think it's Paul Rudd, right?
I guess.
I think
Paul
so.
Rudd is
That
his
sounds
name.
right.
Ant-Man. Ant-Man, I think it's
Yeah.
Paul Rudd, and the Stranger Things actor, I don't know
The
what his
guy with the
name is.
long hair that's curly.
Yeah. And then this caught my eye. I had no idea this was coming. But Christmas Eve, there's a Resident Evil.
Oh, that's not Christmas Eve. That's
That's
November.
Frick. November. Sorry, guys. I just dyslexic. I can't speak. And I own a podcast. This is fine. Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. I have not heard about this. It's the first time hearing about this. But the Resident Evil games, I love the Resident Evil games. I've never played them. But they
They look good.
they're good. I know they're good. It's just I've never played them, but I've seen a lot about them. So I'm curious about that, but I don't know what the deal with that is. And then we saw this
Trailer.
as a trailer right before Dear Evan Hansen. The West Side Story, directed by Steven Spielberg. So that catches my eye, but I know the plot of the West Side Story. But Joya, you said you've never seen the West Side Story?
I have not, which is kind of surprising. I hope to go to it.
Yeah,
I mean-
I've seen the play for the West Side Story, and it's very sad.
Okay.
It's basically a modern day Romeo and Juliet, so you know exactly where it's going, right?
Yeah.
But Yeah.
I'm excited for it. The trailer looked good, but
looked
again,
cute.
that's the nature of trailers.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, December 17th. Now that's actually a couple days before Christmas. I will definitely be watching that one in theaters. No Way Home. Kaylee, I'm assuming you're excited for
Hell
it too.
yeah, I love Tom Holland.
Yeah, and
And Zendaya.
Zendaya.
there's a
Oh my gosh.
lot.
Oh, what
There's a
cute
lot to
couple.
unpack.
Oh my god. Tom Holland and Zendaya are both hotties.
Having two girls on the podcast was a mistake.
Yeah.
I was.
Phil.
Okay, sorry, Phil.
Thank you.
Philly. Only she got that? Joya. Ship names. Phil and Kaylee is Philly.
Oh,
Oh, that's gross. I didn't get it.
I
Actually.
don't like that.
You're disgusting.
The Matrix is coming out 3 days before Christmas. I don't watch The Matrix 4. I don't watch anything that has to do with The Matrix.
It's
So
Yeah,
I'm just not
It's-
pumped about that. The King's Man. No, The Kingsman is a different movie, but this is The King's Man. Have you seen The
Oh.
King's Men? The Kingsman.
Nope.
No.
Have you? Do you know anything about The King's Man?
Nope.
None.
Okay.
Only
well,
that he's
I was
the
hoping
man of the king.
Tomb Raider 2. I don't freaking know what that is. Bob's Burgers is apparently getting a movie. This is news to me. That's fine. This is funny. Yeah, and everything else is just coming in 2022. So like that's really far ahead. But in 2021, there's some good stuff coming out, and I think a lot of that has to do with it being pushed back because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of COVID, a lot of production had to stop.
What's your opinion about movies being released in theaters only?
What's the difference? That used to be a thing all the time.
Yeah, well, in like all the trailers, it was like exclusively in theaters, and I don't.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay.
I think it forces people to get back to the theaters.
I like seeing movies in theaters. Like, don't get me wrong, I really like seeing like stuff online because it's convenient. I don't have to get out my comfy clothes, and I can just sit down in bed and watch it. But it's fun to go out with friends and see a movie, so I like it.
It is. But I just feel like for the movie companies, they would be losing a lot of money. Because,
They are, but
So they're losing money by doing it in theaters only.
I don't know. I think that depends on the company. If you're Disney,
if you're Disney,
I don't know if it matters.
Yeah,
Because they're so big and so
that's
broad
true.
that it doesn't matter. And honestly, I thought after COVID, theaters were going to become something that was like a rarity. You saw all these movie theaters start to shut down.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking that was going to be something of the past, but I'm glad they seem to be making a comeback, so that's good. But yeah, and I think the reason people are doing it exclusively in theaters is to get people out. I don't know. That's just my interpretation of it. But speaking of going to the theater, smooth transition right into the main topic we're going to talk about today, which is Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah.
And I know you girls were very excited to go see this, as
very,
was
very,
I.
very.
So let's just talk about overall thoughts of the movie and like the plot. So like what Kaylee, have you seen the play? Is this play something that you've seen or not?
I have not seen like the full play. I haven't gone in person like to see it, but I did know the plot beforehand just because I was a fan of Dear Evan Hansen before like the movie came out, so I knew most of the songs, if not all of them, and then basically the major plot of it. So
And Joya, what did you think of the plot of Dear Evan Hansen?
Yeah, so I came in with like no expectations. I'd never seen anything about the plot or the songs. I mean, I thought the plot was really sad, but it was well done. It touched on a lot of important issues. I mean, I was kind of cringing at the decisions of the characters at times, but I think that's good for the plot because it meant that I was very engaged with the story. And I definitely thought it was, like, telling a message that needed to be told, and it wasn't, like, in terms of, like, how the movie portrayed it, it wasn't overdone. Like, sometimes movies can take, like, rough issues and, like, sensationalize them, and I thought that it did a good job of being down to earth.
Yeah, so this movie is getting mixed reviews, and I was reading, like, online reviews. Before I say that, I'll say my thoughts. I thought it was a very good movie. It brings to light a lot of things that are the problem with people with mental health is that they're too scared to bring it out, stuff like that, So like, and also I think that the way they told the story, though it is a play, the way they told the story, I'll get into the cinematography of it later, but it was just overall a very well-rounded movie in my opinion, and it had a lot of setup and payoff. I'll explain that later when we get to, again, the cinematography, but it did a lot of things well. And the reason Dear Evan Hansen has such mixed reviews is because people think that the movie glorifies the actions of Dear Evan Hansen, and I didn't read it like that.
Neither did I.
But I could see where that would be taken that way, because if you watch the movie and then you get towards the end when he okay, I had spoilers. You haven't seen it, you don't want to be spoiled, stop listening now. But when he gets to the point where he goes on his Instagram and he's like, you know what, I messed up, I lied, blah blah blah, hate me, blah blah blah, he sends it, and then they just skim on the fact that he's hated at school, or like things go back to normal at school. They don't necessarily look at the fallout that happened from that, right? There was fallout from specific characters, like him and Zoe had a huge fallout after that, obviously. Him and the family had a huge fallout, but it didn't show the fallout publicly that he had.
Yeah. They looked a lot at the fallout of when Zoe first published the letter. They spent a long time covering the fallout from that, and not as much time covering the fallout from his apology. And
Zoe is the part of the family. Alana. Thank you.
My bad.
Yeah.
I'm not great with character names.
Me neither.
Alana. So I thought they should have given both of those like equal amounts of time, since I think both of those had equal consequences and they kind of outweighed each other. But it still felt like the consequence of Alana publishing the letter far outweighed like the consequences of Evan publishing his apology.
Yeah, and it just, the movie seemed like to some people like it was glorifying Evan Hansen's actions.
Yeah.
Kaylee, did you read it like that? And what are your thoughts on that?
No, not really. Like, I don't really know. I was kind of just listening because I had nothing to add, because literally everything you guys were saying I kind of just agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the reason I think it's getting such low reviews. But I think if people had a better understanding of cinematography, I think that this movie would be ranked higher.
Speaking of like low views, like I told my like parents that like, oh, I saw this movie yesterday, and the first, like, before I could even say, oh, it was good, the first response they had was, oh, I heard it was bad, how was it?
Yeah, the reviews focused mainly on the character actions and like the way they were portrayed. I haven't seen the play version of it, but I wonder if the play musical version actually translates better into the fallout of after he admitted to what happened. You know, if it better portrayed the fallout than this movie did. So that is my one gripe with it, is that they didn't show the fallout. They just simply, the only fallout you saw was him reading his books, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone stared at him at the lunch table. Yeah. Like, you got the idea.
But they could have.
But they could have expanded on that probably a little bit more.
Yeah. Other comments that I heard from people, I heard a lot of people say that all of the qualms they had with the movie, they also had with the play itself. So I don't think that's anything about the specific production. But then I heard some people talking about how the actor who played Evan was like 30 in real life, and that it was a little bit off-putting for such an old actor to be playing such a young character. And also the difference between a screen actor and a stage actor, since it was originally a play, that there was some difference in acting styles from, I think it was, again, the actor who played Evan was more accustomed to acting for stage than for screen, and so there was some discrepancies there.
That was very obvious to me when he was singing. But to me, you can get away with that feel because it's originally a play, so I don't think that's necessarily a weakness. I would count that as a strength.
Yeah, I also would.
Yeah, because you could tell that in his facial expressions. There's a scene where he's standing by that tree in the middle of the forest. You could very much tell that he was very used to acting for people in front of him
Acting
and the way
big so they could see it.
yeah. Like he
Yeah.
totally overdid it. But to me, I was just like, yeah,
He's sad.
He's sad. He's used to the and also you had said beforehand that the actor that was Evan Hansen was the actor that was
I'm pretty
actually
sure. I hope I'm not wrong.
yeah.
about that.
That's what you said. But that
pretty sure, but...
if that's not right, I was forgiving of that because I knew that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So let's move into cinematography. And Joya, this might not be your cup of tea to talk about.
I can add in my piece, but you.
Kaylee, I'll start with you with this because I know you will have probably some things to discuss with this. What about the directing, cinematography, editing? What stood out to you about this?
Oh goodness. So like, I think we had like a little bit of a conversation after it, but like you talked about like the rotating camera, like just to get in everything.
The theme.
That was cool.
The theme. There was a very obvious theme of like going around the character with the camera, and even when they did that, they still had cuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he would be going around the camera, then suddenly it would cut. You would see him turn, and then the scene would cut, and then he would be facing the camera. It wasn't off-putting. It sounds like it should have been off-putting, but it wasn't.
One thing that I noticed about that scene, I remember that scene too, is that they had all of the extras walking around normally, and so the camera was like, it was purposely showing chaos because everyone was just doing their normal thing and like blocking the camera basically, and like walking like in front of it and behind it, and then Evan was in like the middle of this big crowd, so I feel like they were purposely doing that to show like his confusion and like anxiety in like the situation.
The strength of this movie is definitely its usage of camera angles. It did a very, very good job of portraying what the character was feeling by using the proper camera angles. The specific example, I know Kaylee, we talked about this last night. There was a scene where Zoe's parents and Zoe invited Evan over to have some gluten-free apple pie.
Oh yeah.
Wonderful stuff.
And dairy-free ice cream.
And dairy-free. Was it dairy-free? No.
Wasn't it like,
no, it was normal ice cream.
No, because they didn't have
They were looking for
dairy-free.
soy or something.
Whatever it was. They were having a conversation, and when the parents came in, they started giving each other grief. The dad made a dad joke. The mom was like fussing about how good the pie was, and Zoe was giving the parents crap. And so there was this really cool camera angle, where it looked down at Evan Hansen ever so slightly. It was almost eye level. It was just above to his forehead, so it looked like you were looking down at him just a little bit. And then it switched angles to a scene of the family, where they were slightly, like, it was just below their chests. Like, it was at their chest level, looking up at them from where Dear Evan Hansen would have been sitting. So it was very clear messaging that he saw the family he saw Zoe's family as his family, right? Because he was from a more broken family, obviously. He had his wonderful mom. I'm not dissing the mom, but, like, their family seemed more full in his eyes, and the movie made that clear. And then the payoff, that was the setup. And the payoff was when he was singing the song Words Fail.
Oh.
He turned to Zoe and he's like, I've never had somebody who loved me for me. He turned to the dad. I've never had a dad to play baseball with. He turned to the mom. I've never had a mom who was just able to be a mom. And so, like, there was that setup of, like, he obviously looks up to this family. And then there was that payoff of him actually saying it later in the movie to call you back to that gluten-free pie scene.
That song made me bawl, by the way. I was crying. Like,
yeah, we will.
too.
We will talk about the music from this because that is a huge aspect from this movie.
I love the music.
But yeah, and even editing wise, I'm going on a rant here. But the editing, even within the first 5 minutes, with that first song waving through a window, right?
Oh, the song.
That song is my favorite song.
Oh, it's so good.
But even if you look at the editing done in that first 5 minutes, it was very, very well done. The editing was, I don't know how to describe it. There was just cool things they did with that song, with the beats of the song, and I think that's the advantage of having music.
Songs.
Yeah, having music within the world instead of just like
Background music.
background music to the world, is that you can do cool editing tricks like that.
And I'm glad they never did like any like weird things like looking at Evan Hansen while he's like singing, just to make it like clear that this is just him hearing this.
They also
Yeah.
didn't
And they
have...
all had that kind
Yeah. One thing that I really liked about the songs was that it wasn't like a choreography like dance number like some musical songs.
of. There was one.
Well, there was
song-
one.
There was
There
one.
was
but
one.
there was like the songs actually advanced the plot.
Yes.
Like I noticed that a lot because like in some musicals it's like the plot happens and then there's a song that's like mildly related but it seems kind of out of context and then it goes back. But in this like the songs were like dialogue between the characters basically.
And that
I
is
thought-
also a very big
Yeah,
strength.
I thought that like was super cool how like they didn't feel out of place and they were like the characters literally talking to each other.
Yeah, so we're already on the topic of music, so let's just move on right into it. What is your guys' favorite songs from the play? Let's just start with that.
I really liked So Big, So Small.
That's
I literally was
talking
talking about it
the whole
before the
movie.
movie. I kept on telling them how sad it is because there's just this one line that gets me every single time. Like, I guess we should maybe explain the song a little bit.
Yeah, you can explain the song. Go for
Okay,
it.
so just all you have to know is Evan is sitting down with his mom, and they're just having a conversation about his depression and all that, and how hard it's been for him. And she's just talking or singing, I guess,
Which
about how
normally would have been a conversation to
Yeah.
Joya's point that it advanced the plot, right?
But she's singing about how she knows that she can't be there, she can't be the best for him, but she is damn well trying. She is
Yeah.
such a good mom in this. But she just goes on, and then like the song will talk about like Evan Hansen, he's behind the truck wheel of like his father's moving truck.
Because his
As
father's
it's-
moving out.
Yeah, because he's the worst. Moved out at like when he was like 7, I think. 7 years old. And so then there's one scene where he's just sitting on his bed getting ready to get tucked into bed. I mean, they don't show it, they're singing it. But then he asks the question, is there going to be another truck in the driveway? Another truck that will take mommy away? And
Yeah,
every single time
It's
it
a
makes
very
me bawl.
hard-hitting,
Yeah.
very hard-hitting line. Joya, what was your favorite song?
I had two. The one that definitely hit me the hardest was the Words Fail song.
And I didn't know the songs beforehand, so I don't know all the titles. The
I
words,
still don't.
Yeah, the song for Words Fail, it just,
Yeah,
it
that one.
really hit hard. And also, I thought like the one where they were writing the emails was just funny.
That's
Yeah.
Jonah's favorite.
That is not my favorite, actually. No.
Bruh.
The
It's
epilogue, no.
I do love that song a lot, and that's the only song I knew going into this
Oh.
was "Sincerely Me."
They cut out.
They
parts
cut
of
out
it.
they cut out one little line that says, "The only man that I love is my dad."
Which they should have left that in.
They should have.
It
I feel like that would
tied
have.
so well to the
I don't
stuff
know why
later
they cut
on.
that out. I was gonna look that up before the podcast, but I didn't.
Yeah.
But what did you mention your second one? Oh, the "Sincerely Me."
Yeah, Sincerely Me.
So I'm flip-flopping actually between my favorite first one and second one. So I really love "Waving Through a
Waving.
Window." That was that or "Only Us," the love song between Zoe and Evan. I feel weird calling him Evan, but I don't want to say Evan Hansen.
You
every
keep
time.
saying Dear Evan Hansen as his
Dear
like
Evan
little
Hansen.
name.
Yeah, because that's this way.
I thought
And then-
that love song was kind of creepy, to be honest.
I was okay with it.
Really, you
Yeah.
thought it was creepy? What
Not
made it
like
creepy?
creepy, but like it.
Are you talking about the first love song when he's like, I loved when you put indigo streaks
No.
in your
That
hair."
one was adorable. I thought
What?
the one
That's
about
the more creepy
If anyone's
one.
gonna be creepy,
No.
it's gonna be if
No.
I could tell her. That's the song.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah,
could tell
that's
her.
the
yeah,
creepy
that
See,
one
that
was
one
a
could be
little- it was
creepy.
a
But I
little
do like that
creepy.
one.
But I like that one.
No,
Yeah.
the one that you're talking about, like, it's just weird because, like, only us, like, nothing else. I just don't like that, like, notion of love. I feel like it's really just, like,
I mean,
inaccurate.
the movie didn't like it either because
Yeah, that's true.
They ended
So,
up
like,
not
I
being
just, it
together.
makes me uncomfortable when couples are like, oh, if only it could just be us together with no one else. Because that's not the point of being a couple.
Yeah, Only Us was, those are my top two I flip. Words Fail is my third. And then my honorable mentions are If I Could Tell Her, which that song in itself I think is actually genius.
Oh, I agree.
Because
so
it's
genius.
very obviously him observing her and acting like her brother said it.
Yeah.
So to him, it's what he has seen about Zoe, but to Zoe, it's what her brother saw about her.
It would have been creepy if her brother actually noticed all that stuff.
That's what I thought too. I was like,
oh, and they also cut a little bit of that one too, because he says like I thought he thought it was really cute. He thought it was really cool. They cut off that part.
They cut off like a little joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and if yeah. Yeah, that's understandable. And You Will Be Found. I'm trying to think of.
Oh, that one was so good.
Oh yeah, the one where he.
It's after his speech.
It's during and after his speech.
Yeah.
And that song was really cool too because they had this.
Like a social media montage?
A social media montage, which.
That made me
the
cry
thing.
too. Holy crap.
Up to that point, there had been no songs where they needed a choir for that song, right?
Mm-hmm.
That song required a choir.
Yeah.
That took you way too long.
No, I got it. It just wasn't funny. So
Dang it!
Sorry, Jonah.
Gosh, I thought about that. I thought about that on the spot, Joya. Come on.
I'm proud of you. I would have done the same.
Thank you. Now, so that song
You
they
Will Be
needed.
Found is honorable mention for me.
So they needed a choir for that song, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's the way it is in the play, but like that's what the vibe of that song gave me. It's like it needed a choir. So their solution to that was the social media
the social
montage thing.
And that was so cool.
Yes.
Uh-oh. Hola.
I rub my nipples and start moaning with delight. Feels kind of good though.
I hope that that the mic caught that. If it didn't, I'll have to cut it out. But
no, if it didn't get it, we just have to have them repeat it.
For those listening, Jonah's roommates just popped in and did that.
they did the I rub my nipples and start moaning with delight from the Sincerely Me song. So yeah, when I was watching the movie, at first I was kind of like, wow, this montage of like the pulling away thing, it's really weird and it doesn't seem to fit the vibe of the movie. But then they started all singing and I realized that they were all singing as a choir and I'm like, oh, that's what they're doing.
It was so
like,
good.
It eventually made sense. So the music from this overall, I think there's not a bad
Top tier.
there's not a bad song.
Top tier.
Yeah, so those I think were worth mentioning.
Who was your favorite character?
See, now I'm gonna not throw away that question, but I'm gonna switch the question.
It's fine.
Does the end justify the means for Dear Evan Hansen?
I
Did Evan
much.
Hansen, was him maintaining the lie? I'm not gonna say okay, but if he had continued the lie, let's say hypothetically he didn't tell anybody that they weren't ever friends and everyone just moved on, and that the Conor project continued to grow and grow. Does the ends justify the mean? Does his lie outweigh the fact that he's helping people out?
So are you basically saying that if he hadn't lied, the Conor project wouldn't have grown?
Well, I'm saying if he hadn't lied, and he had just told them, yeah, I didn't know your son, it would have been just another suicide, and then would have been nothing done about mental health in the community.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, do you side with Evan Hansen on the fact, even though he was acting purely for selfish reasons?
Yeah.
Do you end up
So
I'm not gonna say it was
first,
totally selfish.
Yeah,
just saying. I'm not gonna say it's totally selfish because I think he realized with the Conor project that he was actually helping out the community, and that's why he wanted to continue the lie at the end.
But then he kind of ruined it when he got into a relationship.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was in a moral dilemma as well.
At first, I didn't actually pick up on the fact that it was purely selfish reasons.
I didn't
I
either.
thought the reason that he was lying was because he didn't want to tell this family that the last thing they thought they had of their son wasn't true, and that he was lying for the family's sake. But then, I realized that he was lying for his own sake, and, making this up as he went. And, I mean, in the end, I wouldn't have done what he did. I wouldn't have lied. That was the part that made me really uncomfortable and, it was really cringy at first. But I mean, Alana was planning to launch the project regardless of if she had Evan on board or not. But I think it wouldn't have been nearly as successful.
They probably wouldn't have gone the Orchard because they probably would have.
Well, they wouldn't have known the
wouldn't have
Orchard
known.
information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, Kaylee, does the end justify the means?
Well, the thing is, like you say, like, for, like, his own benefit and stuff, but I honestly think he was a little bit pushed to actually lie.
Initially.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
initially.
The parents were so pushy about
Especially
it.
the mom.
The mom, I did not like the mom.
The mom.
As a character,
I did.
not Evan's mom.
No, I know.
I
Zoe's
didn't
mom.
initially I didn't like her.
Yeah. Oh, I guess
Simply
that's
because she
true.
was so pushy to like
But it's...
make him say things about
It
their
is
son.
understandable if you're, like, grieving over your son, but still, it was very, very pushy.
Yeah, it was kind of uncomfortable, and it just made me uncomfortable because it seemed like she had such, like, a skewed view of reality. Like, especially in the early arguments with Zoe about, like, he was about how Conor was terrible all the time, and the mom was just like, I know there's, like, another baby underneath there, we just have to, like, uncover him like my son. That part
And she was
made me-
right. In
Yeah.
the end, she was right. That
was.
he was at therapy, I think, because
Yeah.
Evan found that music of him at therapy.
Yeah.
And wasn't that... What song did he end up... He write?
Yeah, he wrote a
According
song.
to... But it was one of the songs they were singing.
Yeah, no, they started
Tomorrow?
singing it before he wrote it, like, to
Yeah,
lead
to
it.
lead up to it. And the idea you got is that's one of the songs he
Oh,
wrote.
yeah.
It was like Tomorrow So Close. What was
I'm
it?
I
I'm
don't remember
blanking
that
on whatever
song.
song it was, but that was that. I thought that was a really cool
When
setup
like
too.
the video showed that it was him playing it, it made me cry again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I cried many times during this movie.
So to me, I agree with you, Joy. I would not have lied about it, but you also got to realize that I think Evan Hansen had anxiety from these parents, obviously, right? He had
Yeah.
social anxiety. I think
He
that's the
had-
best way to put
He
it.
literally
He had
didn't have
anxiety.
any friends at all. So this is like
This
only...
was- And yeah, and you saw him change throughout the play too, or
Yeah.
throughout the movie too, right?
to be
And
more
they
confident.
He was a little more confident.
Yeah, they became like family to him, and like eventually, like Zoe's mom started filling like the gaps from his own life when his mom
And
wasn't
The
home.
thing is, it wasn't just for him, it was also for them.
yeah,
Because they thought of him as their new son.
Yeah.
And that was very much told when that was set up throughout the whole movie, but then Zoe made a comment they don't want to lose another son. And that's all right at the locker, and then that's when he went to the tree.
That's
But
when I
that
started
also
crying.
set up that was also a setup and payoff that I thought was really good.
Oh,
really good too.
yes.
That was a lot of tell or show and then tell,
Yeah,
which was very good.
it was.
It was very obvious that they kind of thought of him as their son. And then to
Yeah.
get that confirmation that even after they realized he screwed up, they still thought of him that way.
Yeah,
They literally, like, didn't want him to,
they
like, get
didn't
hurt.
want him to get in trouble for it. Like they didn't.
And
Yeah.
I think partially they understood too. You know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not again, I don't think we should celebrate what he did
Yeah.
as a character.
I agree.
But I think in the end Evan Hansen became a better well-rounded person. He became a little less anxious when talking to people. He gained a little more confidence, and he did some good in the community despite the fact that he lied.
Yeah.
It's not all his fault.
No,
but
and I'm not
it's-
putting all the blame on him, but a lot of it was
Yeah.
initially him.
A detail that I kind of missed the first time was that when he jumped from the tree, he was trying to commit suicide.
Yeah,
I
that
did
was
not realize that.
Kaylee. You obviously
knew
saw
it.
that coming.
I knew
And then
all
when
the
that
time.
happened, and it became obvious that he was almost inventing Conor to try and talk himself out of it. Not out of it, but like he wanted to rationalize things. Like that hit really hard. And I feel like that doesn't justify anything at all, but it really makes sense. Like he was at such a low point that he jumped from a tree, he tried to kill himself, and he, like, jumping from the tree and having no one be there made him feel way worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that, like, he could pretend or, like, rationalize that there was someone there for him, I think that is not a
It was-
good coping strategy.
But it worked.
But it worked.
That can lead to places that are obviously worse than I think what happened in this situation. I think that can lead down roads of like manipulating yourself to a very worse point
Yeah.
than what happened in the movie. But yeah, so that's a I'm not gonna say fun moral thing to debate, but it's definitely something I think
Yeah.
to debate. And like his lies brought so much good from the community, but he was also manipulating all the people around him.
And himself.
But at what point does that, what point does it outweigh?
Yeah.
I feel like if we didn't hear him like singing and all that stuff and getting to know him, we'd probably be a little disgusted by it.
No,
In
yeah,
my
I
opinion.
agree.
By Conor, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, by Evan.
Okay.
But I think that's the point that the movie is also trying to get across. Just like you don't understand what someone's going through.
Yeah.
Connor did not have much screen time when he was alive. We'll say he was within the first 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes of the film. He was dead.
We barely got to actually
didn't
know if he was
actually
a
know
good or
him.
bad person.
The thing
Yeah.
is, like,
And from what we saw,
from what we know, he's most likely just been a bad person, but maybe the ending could show a little bit of his good side.
but again, we don't know the full story. And with
Yeah.
Evan Hansen, we at least got like
A made-up
lots
one.
of peeks
Mm-hmm.
into his life, so you could connect with him more. But we didn't have that with Conor Murphy.
Yeah. And I think they purposely left it really ambiguous about, like, how you wanted to interpret Connor. Whether you wanted to interpret it like his mom or like Zoe or, like, how. And then Evan put a spin on it. And I feel like Evan kind of, like, saved Connor's reputation. Because, like, the kids at school really didn't like him. And then all of a sudden, like, they were all hopping on this bandwagon almost of, like, we love Conor Murphy. Like, we miss him in the whole memorial thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's just a social dynamic of whenever, like, someone commits suicide in a school is everyone pretends they were, like, way closer to him. But I
But-
kind of liked that it was ambiguous of, like, whether he was a good or bad person.
Well, the thing is, it was kind of like that before, like, they did, like, the Connor memorial kind of thing. But when they did that, there was actually people that kind of meant it more than, like, those,
Yeah,
like,
I
jocks
agree.
that went in front of the locker and took a picture of it.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to just touch on this because we've been like skimming on it, but like, do you think this movie did justice to mental health things? Do you think it's good? It's doing its job of spreading awareness of, because I feel like that's partially why this movie was written. I mean, I'm not going to say that's 100% reason why, but I think it was included. It included all those themes of like mental health
Yes,
for
I
a
think
reason, and I think that was to make more awareness of it, because I think in our day and age it's really easy to hide those.
There was
Um,
literally a song about that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
because
Alana
the
sang.
Yeah.
Alana,
Someone
like you
that-
wouldn't have expected her to have like problems,
Yeah. 'Cause
right?
She looked so confident. She was the president and all that, but still, she had like anxiety and
That-
she was taking meds for it.
And
That scene was very relatable to me. The scene when she goes, I'll start. What meds are you on? I'll start. And then they're listing meds. I mean, I think it did an okay job, but obviously, like, every situation is different, and, like, it is a movie, so they do have to take, like, some, like, narrative freedom with that.
Yep.
But, I mean, the whole, like, they dealt with suicide and with mental health and with meds and, like, all of that very honestly. I mean, obviously, like, I know a lot of people with anxiety, and I don't think, like, the, like, whole shaking hands thing is definitely, like, played up for the camera, because how else are they supposed to do that? And I liked how they kind of showed his internal monologue through those letters, which that's something that would be really hard to do. I think they did a good job. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot where I was going. But yeah, this movie touches on a lot of dark themes. Like, if you look at the movie as like without the songs, if you take away the musical, which I think the music added value to the like emotion, but if you
Oh.
take away the music and just make it all dialogue,
It's very depressing.
it's such a heavy movie.
Oh, yeah.
So heavy. It touches on suicide, depression, anxiety,
Like,
lying,
social,
deceit.
like, social isolation.
It touches on a lot
Parent-
of dark things.
divorce.
Parents leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this movie overall, I ranked it 10 out of 10. It's
Oh.
it's in my top 5 movies.
It's a good
Wow.
movie.
Like of all time.
Of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's high up there. And I think a lot of that has to do with the music and the movie meshed really well together. And when you can do that, you are high on my list. If this movie had just been dialogue with no music, I don't think I would have loved it as much.
And the cinematography was really good.
And the
so that helped.
cinematography, oh my gosh. Joya, you have no idea how much that excites
Yeah,
me.
I'm friends with a bunch of film nerds over here. But
Yeah,
I
you
kind
are.
of love it.
Because I would not have noticed all those things, and they did make a huge difference.
And again, what this movie did really well is show, don't tell. They were showing him with the social anxiety. Well, obviously he
Yeah.
was singing about it too.
Yeah.
But like they were showing you that, and it
Yeah.
made you feel
Yes.
more like, oh, I
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
understand why you're feeling like this, because you're standing in the middle of the gym, everyone else is hugging, talking, yelling, and you're just standing there, kind of like,
And the,
I'm here too.
and the camera is circling around him, like,
To show
it's
more.
kind of disorienting in
It
a
is
way.
disorienting to have a moving like that, and then the cuts were just kind of
Yeah,
disorienting
yeah.
too, but like in a good way.
That was such a good scene.
That was a theme throughout the whole movie. The circular
yeah,
around
because
the.
like they circled around the tree at points too.
They liked.
and they like
yeah,
did like weird cuts of him climbing up to the tree.
they. Again, I think there's something to be said about transferring, from play to movie, and that there's a lot of things plays can't portray, and where the actors have to portray it, you can use cinematography to portray it. And I think that strengthened the movie so much.
Because they kind of like during like COVID for like I know like Hamilton they just recorded the play and then add like different like camera angles and all stuff for that. Like they could do a little bit more than they could do in an actual play.
Yeah.
And like that was really good.
Yeah,
Like already
if
it's
you-
just like little more effort and it's like
It shows and that was even done. That's even different because it was done on a play
yeah, it was
itself,
done-
right?
Yeah.
And so they could add a camera in the back. They could add a camera up where the person is perched on the castle. There's no castles, but
Yeah.
you know, like they could they could follow the characters more because they had the cameras and they had a live studio audience, so that you had the laughter. Hamilton, there's something to be said that Hamilton was very good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Also, something I was very happy about, like, I wasn't expecting them to do it, but, like, making sure that the characters were singing and not just having them singing over their actions.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, they did that in Tarzan, like, the movie, like, Disney Tarzan. So, basically, where, they would be having, like, the singing and stuff, but the character would never sing it. And that movie did horribly in terms of Disney standards. Otherwise, like, say, like, a Cinderella movie where she's singing about it and you can, like, see her moving. You can connect to the character more and actually, like, listen to, like, what they're saying other than, oh, the character's, having fun. They're, like, dancing on the table, but with music, and they're not singing it, though.
Only Us is a great example of that. There was a lot of not giggles, but like
cute flirtatious,
cute little
like,
flirtatious.
interludes.
Yeah, like you could tell that
Yeah.
they had specifically thought about that.
I love
Is
it when
that
a
they
movie,
needed the emotion and the music to match, otherwise it was not gonna work.
I love it when like a song like cuts between like melody and dialogue. That is one of my favorite things, and this movie did that really well.
Last thing, because we're running out of time here, but last thing I want to mention is the usage of the breathing and the silence. I don't know if you noticed this, but it was right before what song? You Will Be Found, right before he started that song, where he dropped the mic.
Oh.
Or even when he was going up on stage and was completely
Yeah.
silent. The usage of his breathing, and that's only one example. There was other examples throughout the film. But the usage of his breathing really made you understand what he's feeling, along with that
Yeah.
dead silence.
It showed his anxiety
It
really well.
it made you as a watcher anxious, so
Yeah.
you were anxious with the character.
Because whenever movies cut out like background music entirely, it always just makes you a little bit anxious. And then they were doing that with the breathing and like that camera angle like being kind of like, it wasn't everywhere, but yeah, it helped you feel what the character was feeling.
And the camera angles in that, good for mentioning that, because that reminds me too. Like they had one where it was behind him, and then like it was showing the back of his head, then the camera moved to show like the bright light shining on his face, and it was like sweat dripping from his brow. Again, show me he's nervous. Don't show me he's nervous. Don't tell me he's nervous. Show me he's nervous, and that's what this did really well. I mentioned it like 5 times on this podcast about this movie, but they did a lot of show, not tell. There was a lot of both, but it had a good balance of show and tell. So like, so yeah, this movie, top tier. I think it's a Disney. It'll be on Disney Plus eventually. Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it's a Disney property. I could be wrong about that, but when in doubt, just guess Disney, and you're 75% of the time gonna be right. So Joya and Phil, thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome.
For the talk of Dear Evan Hansen. It was fun to go to the movie and then to have a little discussion about it afterwards. I think we're all very passionate about this movie now.
Oh, I love this
Yeah.
movie.
And I think we could have gone on for another 45 minutes, but for the sake of our viewers, we're gonna end it there. We're coming up on almost 45 minutes now. So thank you guys for watching this episode of Lifecast. I think it's episode like 23. I could be wrong. I don't even say what episode it is at the beginning of the podcast anymore. I just kind of roll with it. So again, links are in the description. For any links that you are in want of, our Discord's down there. Please join the Discord. It'll be fun if we get more people in there and have conversations with people. That'll be fun. Subscribers has been dropping. I've dropped like 12 subscribers in the past 5 months.
Oh, dang.
It's fine. I honestly am not worried because I know the people that are subscribed are the people that are actually watching. And so if people are unsubscribing simply because they don't watch anymore, that's completely fine with me. So I'm going to stop rambling because I have a tendency to ramble at the end of every episode. But thank you for watching this episode of Lifecast. When life gives you lemons, sing in a musical.
Love you.
Bye.